Welcome on into the Broncos Breakdown by Chat Sports. Matthew Peterson here from Indianapolis at the NFL Combine, relaying what I learned and what I heard today from not only Sean Payton's press conference, but George Payton's press conference as well. And, of course, the Combine's always good for some rumors and some rumblings and mumblings and things like that I want to share with everyone watching. So let's start by talking about what Sean Payton really opened up his press conference with, which is running back and tight end are a priority for them. That's not a big secret. I do think Sean Payton won the award for the longest press conference today. It was like 30 minutes, and it wasn't about him just, ranting on and on. He just had some nice pauses in between some of his sentences, and he took his time answering some questions, but he definitely gets the award for longest press conference. But anywho, so what were some of the big takeaways from Payton's press conference? Well, I asked him a question about, hey, if you're trying to develop Bo Nix to the best of the ability, knowing Nix's, traits and his profile as a quarterback, do you believe going with a running back or a tight end with a premium draft selection would best serve Nix? And here's what Sean Payton said.
Coach, when it comes to Bo specifically, do you feel like a premium pick used on a tight end or a running back could best serve him in his development for year two?
All right. Good question. So the running back and the tight end could obviously help in his development. And then I would also say like a really good elite pass rusher can help in his development, a really good cover corner. And so I'm only saying that, meaning the best player that helps the team get better is going to help in his development. And sometimes I think that when you talk about getting him weapons, I mean, certainly that's important. And you mentioned two positions that obviously would help. But I think we got to look closely at what helps the team, because that in turn can really end up helping that position. But I think at 20, we'll have some good options. We're here to sort through those options right now, and we'll kind of go from there.
I'm not going to lie, at the beginning when he opened up with great question, I felt kind of good about myself. And then I think he kind of dunked on me by talking about it's nice to also have good pass rushers and cornerbacks. So not really sure how much to take away from that. I was trying to pry a little bit of behind the scenes planning, whether they want to go running back or tight end. At this point, I don't think the Broncos know what they want to do at 20 because they're picking 20. There's a major sit back, wait and see. Maybe they want to go Ashton Jeanty, but if Ashton Jeanty is gone, then they prefer Tyler Warren or Colston Loveland, right? And if both those guys are gone, maybe they prefer one of the many great interior defensive linemen in this draft class. So I would urge and recommend everyone, don't get too hung up on what is Denver going to do at 20. When you're picking at 20, you don't know what you're doing yourself. Denver may have a preference. I'm sure they have some name at the top of their big board, of course, and that name could be Ashton Jeanty or it could be Tyler Warren. But if that name gets selected before they're on the clock and they go a different route, I don't think that is a signal of that was their plan all along. No, they may have had to call an audible based on who was picked before them. So running back, tight end continue to be talking points for the Broncos at the Combine this year and throughout the offseason. Sean Payton reiterating that during his presser today. Another topic I really want to bring up here is Rob Gronkowski. So not too long before the Paytons took the stage and took the podium, Cecil Lammey, who covers the team, shared that he has some sources telling him that Gronkowski wants to come back to the league and the Broncos could have interest in Gronk, which seeing something like that kind of happen in real time, just watching a bunch of Broncos beat reporters all react to the same tweet and start asking each other the same questions was kind of interesting. And I mean, I guess I'll say fascinating to watch, to see everyone start working in real time about whether or not this has any legs to it or any substance to it. Benjamin Albright shared that it's pretty much as close as you can get to being a nothing burger. Maybe Gronk just wants to come back and thinks playing for Sean Payton would be an excellent coach to play under since Tom and Bill are no longer in the league. But I'm not looking at this as, whoa, something to really watch for here. Gronk could be coming to the Broncos. He's got to get back in football shape. He hasn't been in football shape, and at least not, at a high level for at least probably a year, maybe 2. Does Gronk strike you as someone who's going to spend the rest of the offseason putting the man hours in to get back to tip-top NFL shape at 36, 37 years old? Personally, for me, no, I don't think so. So I'm not going to give this one a lot of value or a lot of weight to it. I think it's just a fun little rumor storyline going around during the Combine. But, no, I don't believe that Gronk is going to be suiting up in Denver next year. Another storyline to go over here. Courtland Sutton. He also came up in both Sean and George Payton's press conferences. And we'll start with Sean Payton, stating that they would like to have Sutton here in Denver, but he also did not mince his words when he said that this is not the time for them to start looking at a contract extension for Courtland. Here's what Payton said.
No, I think, look, George and I were just talking about it. Those discussions will take place. George, Courtland's representatives, and we felt like he had a real good season. He's important to what we're doing. So all of that will happen in time, and I don't think now's the time.
Now, Sutton has 1 year left on his contract. Remember, last year he didn't show up to OTAs, and I think it was mandatory minicamp as well, and he was looking for more guaranteed money, and ultimately they gave him some more incentives, which he did cash in on, so it was a good move by Courtland altogether. But whether or not he gets a long-term extension at 29 years old, that's a much different conversation than we're going to throw him an extra $1 to $2 million in contract incentives. My gut tells me Sutton is going to get an extension. He played, I would say, the best year of his entire career last year. And with Bo Nix so young in his career, it doesn't seem wise to me to yank away the number one target he had after just his first or second season in the league. So I could see Sutton landing a 3-year, say 3-year, $75 million extension. That would pay Courtland $25 million a year. Maybe you guarantee half of it, so it's basically like a 2-year, $45 million extension, somewhere in that range. But I think an extension is going to get done, but Payton was pretty direct that it's not going to happen this week at the Combine. Another thing I want to talk about next is George Payton and some of the free agents the Broncos have in the next coming of weeks to make a decision on before free agency really opens up. So starting with DJ Jones, that's one of the first questions that Payton was asked, and he said they're going to talk to DJ Jones' agent this week. So, while they're not talking to Sutton's agent this week, or at least not getting an extension done this week, or really putting that at the front of their duties, it does seem like DJ Jones, the player that they are going to actively work towards bringing back. Remember, he signed a 3-year, $30 million deal a few years ago. That contract is up. It was not so pleasant of a 2023 season for DJ, but 2024, he was a big part in them being one of the better run-stopping units, although that didn't really show against the Bills, but I'm willing to look at the larger sample size of the entire year and not just one playoff game. So Jones, it definitely seems like a player on track to return. However, like I said earlier, it's a loaded interior defensive line draft class. So if they can't find a fair number to agree with on DJ, don't be surprised if they let him walk in free agency and find a younger, cheaper option in the draft. Now, before we talk about some of the other free agents available for the Broncos, I do want to reiterate that there's an awesome deal going on with our friends over at Fanatics. It's this Bo Nix t-shirt jersey, a jersey, as I like to call it here. So if you want to get your favorite Broncos player on your back, but you don't want to spend well over $100, go to chatsports.com/Knicks shirt. I put that link in the comments and description of today's video. So after DJ Jones, another player that came up in the presser, one that I brought up to George Payton, was Javonte Williams, because my question to George was, you drafted Williams 4 years ago. Are you looking to emulate and follow that same path of a running back prospect, a bowling ball type of profile, or do you think you might go a different route this time around when going running back, which will likely be in rounds 1, 2, or 3? And I thought it was kind of interesting how the first thing George brings up when answering that question is, well, let's talk about maybe bringing back Javonte. Here's what Payton said.
4 years ago, you took Javonte. If he's in free agency, do you plan on pursuing a similar style of running back in this year's draft?
Well, I mean, there's a chance we bring Javonte back, and I think Javonte is one of the best pass protectors in the league, and I think he's still young and he's still ascending, another year removed from the injury. But I think there's so many different flavors in this draft of runner, and we have some backs that we like. And so it's going to be an interesting process. It already has been, just to get to know these runners. I know we're searching for the Joker. It's kind of like the Loch Ness Monster, trying to find a goddamn Joker. But I've played Sean's teams that had them, and they're hell. So, a lot of different backs. I think it's a good year to maybe, go get a back because there's so many. But, yeah.
Now, I still don't believe that the Broncos are going to bring back Williams because, sure, well, he does help out in pass protection, and there is some upside to him in the receiving department. I think the roster spot and the amount of snaps he was seeing down the stretch last year, the two aren't adding up to me. So at this point, I'd be surprised if Williams comes back. I think he's going to get a shot somewhere else in the league. Another team's going to take a chance on a former second-round draft pick who will be 1 year further removed from a very devastating knee injury. And, well, look what J.K. Dobbins did this past year in L.A. Look about, how about James Conner going to the Cardinals and being better the last 4 years of his career than the first 4 years of his career. So I don't think Pookie's time in the league is done, but I don't think it's going to continue in Denver. So another couple of bullet point items I want to share here. Drew Sanders, he's going to be moving to inside linebacker. It's been like Michael Scott with him, snip, snap, snip, snap, snip, snap. He's inside linebacker. He's outside linebacker. Now he's back to inside linebacker. So with that, there may not be a Cody Barton return. The Broncos have a weird state right now at their inside linebacker position. Singleton's on the wrong side of 30, and he's coming off a torn ACL. Barton's coming off a breakout campaign, but he's going to be a free agent. And Zach Bond's a free agent. That's a player who Sean Payton drafted. That was an NFL Defensive Player of the Year finalist. So maybe if the Broncos can't land Bond in free agency, he's just too expensive for them, they decide we'll stick with Drew Sanders because George Payton said they view him as a starter, and last year they said they view Riley Moss as a starter in this league, and they view Luke Wattenberg as a starter in this league, and we saw what happened with those guys. They would go on to start the next season, so I think there's a good chance they decide to roll with one of their own players currently on the roster and see how Sanders performs at inside linebacker. Bo Nix, remember he got surgery after the season was over. It was not back-related, and he's already back at the facilities working out, so no concern whatsoever for the Broncos on that injury update. And last but not least, Zach Wilson and Jarrett Stidham. Some backup quarterback talk. Sean Payton definitely sounded like a man who wants to bring back one of those two backup QBs. He really liked the quarterback room. I think Zach Wilson's going to have a larger market because of just the overall branding that's going to come of, wow, Zach Wilson just got resurrected from Sean Payton, went to Sean Payton quarterback rehab, and Sam Darnold did the same thing with, Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers and blossomed with the Vikings. Maybe we can recapture the second overall pick magic with Wilson. So I think there's going to be a bigger market for Wilson, and as a result, he'll probably go somewhere else in free agency where he has a better chance of starting. And at that point, Denver will probably want to bring back Stidham to continue to back up Nix, although I think Jarrett Stidham is much more anxious to go out and try and find a spot where he can compete to be the starter. But if he only gets 3 calls and one of them's the Broncos and the other 2 are, not competitions whatsoever, then he may not have a better option other than just staying put in Denver. All right, that's going to do it for us on today's episode. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Make sure you scroll on down and subscribe to the channel if you have not already for more updates from the NFL Combine.